The sirens wail, echoing through the city streets and piercing the quiet of the night. A nation holds its breath, hearts pounding as families gather in shelters, waiting for the unknown. This is Israel, long defined by conflict, a country where the threat of attack is never far away. For decades, its security relied on fences, tanks, and boots on the ground. But today, the most critical battles are waged in the silent expanse of space, far above the reach of any wall or weapon. Israel's most important border is now an invisible shield, orbiting above Earth, a barrier made not of concrete, but of technology and vigilance. This shift was born from a stark realization. In a region of relentless threats where danger can come from any direction at any time, seeing what's coming is more important than simply stopping it at the gate. Israel's enemies are sophisticated, with long-range missiles, hidden launch sites, and ever-evolving tactics. The threats are not just numerous, they are unpredictable and often invisible until it's too late. A soldier can only see to the horizon. But satellites, orbiting high above, see everything. Every movement, every launch, every shadow that might signal danger. The nation's most powerful guardians are no longer just soldiers or pilots, but a constellation of advanced satellites, a network of eyes in the sky that never sleep, never blink, and never tire. These machines, designed and built by Israeli minds, provide a constant stream of intelligence, the lifeblood of the IDF, feeding commanders with real-time data and early warnings. They are the first line of defense, offering precious seconds of warning and tracking threats before they materialize, giving Israel the edge to respond swiftly and decisively. The high ground of the 21st century is not a hilltop. It's low Earth orbit, where the view is limitless and the stakes are higher than ever. Israel's journey into space is a story of survival, audacity, and relentless innovation, a testament to a nation that refused to be left behind. Faced with a world reluctant to share secrets, Israel built its own window to the heavens, developing homegrown technology and expertise against all odds. This journey has transformed its military, turning space into an indispensable arena for national security, and giving Israel a strategic advantage that few nations possess. The silent sentinels orbiting the planet are Israel's unseen shield, a testament to the nation's will to endure, adapt, and survive in a world where threats are ever-changing, but vigilance never sleeps. For decades, Israel's security was grounded in physical defenses, walls, trenches, and sensor-laden fences. These barriers stretched for miles, standing as silent sentinels against intruders, and symbolizing the nation's determination to protect its people at all costs. The strategy was simple. Hold the line. The Israeli Defense Forces, or IDF, were rigorously trained to repel invasions with overwhelming force, always ready to respond to any breach. Their drills along the border became a routine, a constant reminder of the threats lurking just beyond. But over time, the nature of threats changed dramatically. Enemies adapted, developing new tactics and technologies. Rockets and missiles began to rain down, bypassing Israel's formidable ground defenses with ease, striking deep into cities and towns. A fence, no matter how advanced, can't stop a ballistic missile. These weapons soared high above, rendering traditional barriers obsolete in the face of modern warfare. Israel soon realized that a purely defensive posture was no longer enough. To survive, it needed intelligence, detailed knowledge of hidden rocket launchers, secret tunnels snaking beneath the earth, and clandestine weapons factories camouflaged in the terrain. The battlefield was now as much about information as it was about firepower. Human spies and aerial reconnaissance had their limits. Pilots risked being shot down. Agents could be caught or compromised. Even trusted allies like the United States couldn't always provide timely or specific intelligence when it mattered most. The margin for error was shrinking. Israel could no longer afford to be blind even for a moment. It needed its own persistent and reliable source of intelligence, one that could see beyond the reach of enemy air defenses and provide real-time information day and night, in any weather. The answer wasn't on the ground or in the air. The answer was in space. Only from orbit could Israel gain the constant, wide-reaching surveillance it desperately needed. The era of relying solely on barbed wire and border patrols was ending. The era of the satellite, of eyes in the sky, watching over the nation, was about to begin. Satellites became Israel's ultimate solution. Orbiting at incredible speeds, they're nearly impossible to intercept and can survey vast territories. Modern reconnaissance satellites see with astonishing clarity, identifying vehicles, tracking construction, and detecting underground facilities. These eyes in the sky gather critical intelligence, analyzed by elite IDF units for signs of trouble. This gives decision-makers a crucial head start, time to prepare defenses or launch preemptive strikes. Satellites are also essential for early warning and missile defense, detecting launches in real time and triggering Israel's multi-layered defense systems. They guide Israel's offensive capabilities, enabling precision strikes with GPS and navigation satellites. By having its own satellites, Israel ensures its forces can operate even if global systems are jammed. Satellites provide the IDF with its eyes, ears, and sense of direction. In the modern battlefield, they are indispensable. The satellite revolution has redefined Israel's security. Israel's space program began as an act of defiance, a bold step into the unknown, fueled by necessity and vision. In the 1980s, Israel depended heavily on the United States for satellite intelligence, but American priorities didn't always align with Israel's urgent security needs. Sometimes critical information arrived too late, or not at all, leaving Israel vulnerable and frustrated. The Yom Kippur War in 1973 was a painful lesson. Israel was caught off guard, and the cost was high. The war taught Israel the dangers of strategic surprise and the price of relying on others for vital intelligence. To survive in a hostile region, Israel realized it needed its own eyes in the sky. Satellites that could provide real-time information, controlled by Israelis, for Israelis. This was a monumental goal for a small country with limited resources. Israel faced a unique geographic challenge. To avoid flying over hostile neighbors, rockets had to launch westward, against the Earth's rotation, making the mission even more difficult and costly. Undeterred, a small determined team of scientists and engineers pressed forward. They worked long hours, often in secrecy, driven by a sense of national mission and the belief that Israel's future depended on their success. On September 19, 1988, after years of tireless effort, Israel launched the Shavit rocket from Palmahim Air Base, carrying the Ofek-1 satellite into orbit. It was a moment of triumph and national pride. The world was stunned. Overnight, Israel became only the 8th nation in history to independently place a satellite in space, joining the ranks of global superpowers. Ofek-1 was a simple test satellite, but it proved Israel's capability. It showed that with determination and ingenuity, even a small nation could reach for the stars. The launch sent a clear message to the world. Israel was now a space-faring nation, ready to shape its own destiny from above. The program's success was both a technological and strategic breakthrough. It inspired a new generation of scientists and engineers, and gave Israel a critical edge in intelligence and security. Now Israel could watch over its own security from the ultimate high ground, space, gathering information and protecting its people like never before. The birth of Israel's space program changed the nation's destiny. It was a turning point, a leap into the future that redefined what was possible for Israel. Space became central to Israel's survival, a new frontier that continues to shape its story today. The October 7, 2023 attack was a traumatic intelligence failure for Israel. Despite advanced surveillance, the country was blindsided by a low-tech assault from Gaza. The lesson technology alone isn't enough. Analysis and strategy matter. In the aftermath, Israel rethought its entire defense concept. It needed a multi-layered intelligence system, integrating space assets, drones, cyber, human agents, and open-source data. Space-based assets became even more critical. The IDF realized it needed more satellites, providing near-constant surveillance. The focus shifted to tactical, actionable intelligence for forces on the ground. Redundancy and depth became the new strategy. If one source fails, others fill the gap. Satellites are now the foundation of this resilient intelligence architecture. They provide broad, persistent overviews, cueing other assets for closer looks. The tragedy reinforced the need for a robust, integrated and vigilant presence in orbit. Security must be multi-layered, from the ground to the cosmos. Israel's defense now starts in space. Israel's near monopoly on military space in the Middle East is over. The final frontier is now crowded, as rival nations recognize the strategic value of space. Iran is the most significant challenger, developing its own military satellites as part of its regional ambitions. Each Iranian launch brings it closer to a true reconnaissance network. The UAE, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Egypt are also investing in space, with dual-use technology blurring civilian and military lines. This proliferation erodes Israel's advantage. In future conflicts, Israeli forces could be monitored by enemy satellites. The growing number of objects in orbit increases the risk of collisions and complicates operations. Space is now a contested domain, not a sanctuary. Israel must plan to counter adversaries' space capabilities. The silent frontier is becoming a potential battlefield. The regional space race is reshaping security. Israel's edge is no longer guaranteed. Israel's space program walks a fine line between defense and civilian use. Technologies developed for spy satellites have fueled a thriving high-tech industry. Advanced imaging and miniaturization benefit everything from agriculture to urban planning. High-resolution cameras help farmers manage crops and monitor water resources. The military's demand for innovation drives research, while civilian markets scale up production and reduce costs. This synergy has made Israel a global space tech leader. Companies like ImageSat International market Israeli satellite imagery worldwide. The close military-civilian relationship creates challenges. Ensuring technology isn't misused is a constant concern. Despite complexities, the dual-use model has been overwhelmingly beneficial. Israel's sword and plowshare are forged from the same stellar material. As space grows crowded, Israel faces new threats far above Earth. Its satellites are now potential targets. Anti-satellite weapons, missiles, lasers, and electronic warfare are being developed by rivals. Jamming and cyber attacks threaten to blind or hijack satellites. The sheer number of objects in orbit increases the risk of collisions with space debris. Israel must carefully maneuver its assets to avoid this ever-present danger. Another challenge: brain drain. Israel's booming tech sector makes it hard to retain top engineers for defense projects. Competing for talent is as critical as defending satellites. To stay ahead, Israel must fend off threats in orbit and win the battle for human capital. The modern battlefield extends into space, and the rules are still being written. Israel's vigilance must reach beyond the atmosphere. Israel adapts with agility and ingenuity, its hallmark in defense. Unable to match superpowers in quantity, Israel focuses on quality, speed, and intelligence. The strategy: develop smaller, smarter, and more resilient satellites. Miniaturization allows rapid deployment of constellations, creating a resilient network. If one satellite fails, others fill the gap. Resilience through redundancy. Artificial intelligence and onboard processing are game changers. Next-gen satellites will analyze data in orbit, sending immediate alerts instead of raw imagery. This speeds up decision-making, giving commanders actionable intelligence in seconds. Israel's survival depends on out-innovating rivals. Partnerships between military, academia, and private sector are crucial. A culture of risk-taking and rapid development is essential. Mastery of space is now a pillar of national existence. For Israel, securing the heavens is the ultimate guarantee of its future. The battle for security is now fought in the silent, star-filled expanse above.